declining very rapidly since the 1950s. As you can see here, their thickness has decreased a lot in the past 50 years or so. The reason behind this is that temperature changes that have been occurring in the surface of the Earth gets amplified at a higher altitude.
Can you bring the slide closer to you, sweetie?
I'm sorry. Is this better? Okay. So mountain glaciers are more susceptible to climate change because of their high altitude, and temperature changes that are occurring at the surface get magnified at these high altitudes. However, the magnitude of these amplifications are not well known, purely because we do not have enough data about changes that are occurring at a high altitude in the Earth's atmosphere. Now, most of the paleoclimate history, paleoclimate record that go back in Earth history is focused on the surface changes that occur in the Earth's atmosphere. My research here is to understand what are the temperature changes that are occurring at a higher altitude in the atmosphere of the Earth. And to do this, I use ice cores because they are literally a vessel that trap the ancient atmosphere in them when they form. When glaciers compact and form, they trap the atmosphere in them as gas bubbles. And using those gas bubbles, historically, we have been able to infer changes in the composition of the atmosphere. If you look at this plot here, it is a beautiful record going back to almost 800,000 years of variations in the carbon dioxide concentrations in the atmosphere, in the Earth's atmosphere. However, if you look at this little spike here, this is purely from the last 50 years or so and has gone up to 375 in 2001. Currently, we are at 404 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. But besides understanding composition changes in the atmosphere through time, there is actually a hidden thermometer in the glaciers from a very abundant component of the atmosphere, which is oxygen. This is basically a figure showing the interaction of the atmosphere with light. When sunlight reaches the Earth's atmosphere, there's some photochemical reactions that occur in the atmosphere and reorder bonds of oxygen molecules in the oxygen molecule, leading to breaking and reforming of these bonds. And sometimes they lead to the formation of two heavy isotopes of oxygen, or 18O bonding together. And this is purely governed by temperature, leading to higher amounts of clumps when the temperature is cold and lesser amount of clumps when the temperature is warmer. But I'd like to point out here that these clumps are extremely rare, and to give you an idea of how rare they are, if you take an analogy of the total abundance of oxygen molecules being valid to the total population of America, then the total amount of clumped isotopes of clumped molecules of oxygen is less than half the graduate student population here at Rice. And even within this very, very small number, we can discern fine changes and make inferences about the Earth's atmosphere and the paleoclimate history of the Earth. So to do this, we get our samples from a very cool place called the Ice Core Laboratory in Denver. And when I say cool, I mean literally cool, because these ice cores are stored at a -35-degree freezer. And these ice cores are dated using layer counting. The layers are so well preserved that you can discern summer layers from winter layers by just looking at them on a semi-annual scale. Now, once we have obtained our ice cores of the required age, we store them at a -25 degrees freezer here at Rice, and process these samples in multiple ways to ultimately obtain the gases that are preserved in these ice cores. If you see here, when we eventually melt the ice cores, the gases are liberated slowly, and we trap them in, run them through a mass spectrometer to make these measurements of clumped isotopes. And after making almost, and I also like to point out that our lab is the only lab in the world currently doing these measurements. And after a vast, long hours of measurements and sample preparation, we have been able to infer that the atmosphere 20,000 years ago was 6 degrees cooler than it was before the Industrial Revolution. Now, why does it matter that it was 6 degrees cooler 20,000 years ago? The 20,000 years ago, the Earth was significantly different than what it is right now. The Earth was going through the time period of the Last Glacial Maximum, change to that. And with that, I thank you.